Все, начало. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, I see the chat. It's good. I'm checking out the new setup. I'm not sure how good is the quality. Hi Jan. Hello, hello. So how's the video quality? Is it loading? Is it all good? The audio quality as well. Okay, I hope things are a bit better now. The connection is right and everything is good. Okay, perfect. Hi everybody, hello, zdravo. Greetings from Serbia once again. For in the last day or 2 or 3, I have been reading a bit about Kosovo and a bit about Russia. So I will talk just about a half of this stream about the what's going on, what I figured out, what I have found out, and because well, this is quite interesting, I think, and as the first time I came here to Serbia, I heard about this conflict with Kosovo, and I had about zero information about why things are going on as they are, and just have done just a bit of digging, and I heard that Russia and Serbians are going along pretty well, as it seems, and I was interested in finding out what the reason is for that exactly. But this was not the main focus of my latest research. It was Kosovo and what's going on with it. The story I will tell just a short story of what happened with Kosovo in the latest 1000 years or so, just the top facts as I found out from Wikipedia and stuff like this. So it first was held by the Bulgarian Empire in like the 10th age. Then it was okay, I see that landscape video. Yes, I made the whole new setup, so I'm trying to figure it out. It was lagging. I hope it's fine now. We'll see. So it was held by the Bulgarian Empire. Then in the 13th age, it was century. It's called. It was taken by the Kingdom of Serbia and held by it till the 14th age century. Sorry, and then it was held by the Ottoman Empire, and the Albanians were part of the Ottoman Empire, and I think that this is the first time that the Albanians had any claim. Maybe I'm not exactly 100% sure on that, but then in the beginning of the First World War, in the 1920s, there was like a Balkan War, and the territories were splitting and stuff happening all over, and I'm not most of the information I will just skip because it was like so much reading about all of this, and figuring it out is quite hard. Then almost at the beginning of the Second World War, what happened was that the Italians, if I'm correct, gave this Kosovo territory to the Albanians once again, and then there was a little something in the 1980s, like a small conflict back then, once again about the Kosovo and its territory, and all this time many people, the Serbians and all the other ones, were moving back and forth between this territory, and since about the middle of the 20th century, the Albanians were the main, have taken most of the territory as ethnically. I mean, it was held by a couple of different countries, and Yugoslavia back then when it was a socialist country, if that is the correct term. But then there were the Yugoslav wars that like a couple of ethnic conflicts that happened, and these wars were independent, but they were all just connected logically between themselves. Also, there was one more thing. So, and also most of the time there was like some kind of Albanian army holding this territory in one way or another, and it was a war all this time, and you could imagine, since in the Second World War, before it, or about the time of it, the Italians, which were Nazis, they have given this territory to the Albanians, and this already raises some questions about what was their relations between each other. Why would they get such a thing? Of course, this is a very nice present, and the Nazis, of course, were trying to start a war and gain allies back then, of course, once again. But in the 1920s 98 till 1999 there was like a war, which is called the Kosovo War between Yugoslavia and the Kosovo, and well, there was an army called Kosovo Liberation Army, and it was like a militant separatist organization that has been terrorizing the Serbians that lived in the Kosovo region, as well as in the surrounding areas, that in Macedonia and Serbia or Yugoslavia back then. They were making these terrorist attacks, and they were just removing people of Serbian ethnicity from the areas surrounding Kosovo. And of course, during a war, many things happen back and forth, but one of the most significant things to me was like quite shocking, that this same Liberation Army of Kosovo has been found to be trading human organs and a couple of other quite unsettling things. So as far as I found, there's not much of the same information in regards to the Yugoslavian army, but I'm not like trying to defend a communist country, because of course it's a very hard and difficult regime, and many things go bad there, and the whole system is quite badly made, as far as I can see, in many ways. It like all sounds logical, but in the end it's too utopian to work, and many things just break, and once they do, the system has to hide these things and all this jazz. But of course, back then it was a fight between the Soviets and the Nazis, and the choice is not very simple, choosing between both horrible ways of living. But this Albanian army, and it was Kosovo Liberation Army, which was made up mostly like 98% of Albanians, as I found on the Wikipedia. It was doing some bad stuff, all right. And then NATO took in, and has starting to take a lot of interest in what's going on. So let me show you, by the way, one more thing. First I have to find it. I have this okay, right, so Okay, I'm sorry. Let me check that. Once again, I'll fix it. So you can hear me right now, if I'm correct, right? Oh, that was a mistake. Anyway, let me begin from the start of the photos where I showed you the photos. Sorry for that. Okay, from the top, right? So we have this Kingdom of Serbia that was holding this territory in the 13th century, and you can see the city of Pristina here, which is in the middle of Kosovo. So is the sound okay, by the way? Okay, all is good. The Albanians are not thinking of Kosovo the same way as Serbians do. As you can see on this graph, which is from Russian Wikipedia page, the Serbians think of it in two spots. The first parts. The first one is Kosovo, which is on the right, and Metohija is on the left. Metohija means the land of saint, if I'm correct. Okay, I'll check it later and show it to you. So here you can see the Pristin, the city, and it's Pristina, and it's the same over here, and the Kingdom of Serbia holding it. The next thing that happened was the Ottoman Empire, and let me check if I have this graph here. The Serbians went to the north quite a bit more, pushing Österreich further back, and this same city of Pristina is held here by Ottoman Empire. So this is the beginning of this whole change in the religion and in the movement of the ethnic groups and stuff. And the Albania is over here. It's like almost exactly over here. So as it was a part of the Ottoman Empire, probably a lot of people have moved all over these areas. So more information, let me check. Anyway, then the first time it was taken back was during the First World War, with the Yugoslavia taking it most of it back. I'm a bit lost in this whole. Anyway, so then were a couple of other internal movements, as I said previously. If I'm not mistaken, you've heard me properly. But anyway, in the 1999 there happened the bombings of the Serbia, which were very hated by all the people in Serbia. It was like almost a shock. The whole as far as I can see, the Serbians at this point were seeing Kosovo as a historical part of Serbia, because since the well, back then the Kingdom of Serbia, it was held by Serbians, and the Albanians came afterwards. Only before that it was held by the Bulgarian Empire, but it had nothing to do with the Albania. So since then they think of it as their territory historically, basically. But it was through the nationalist wars that this territory was given back its it's not given back, it was taken by the Albanians. There has been a lot of stuff happening inside Kosovo, which I will not be even starting to talk about, because it's like so intense, the conflicts within the terrorist attacks on churches and all this stuff, and all the recent events. I haven't even touched them. So, but these bombings which struck everyone, of course people started believing more in what was going on. And one of the things that happened was that in the Serbia there has been a radio or TV station, I'm not exactly sure, but it was pushing some propaganda, the Yugoslavian propaganda from it, and it was like completely obliterated. And this was a very big moment for the whole Serbians, so they started believing, trusting less in NATO, and therefore now there is like a lot of Russian news popularity, and you can see Russian news, what's the right term, banners of the Russian news written in Serbian and stuff. And as I hear that many yes, also Jan, yes, exactly right, the Chinese embassy in Belgrade was accidentally bombed by NATO during the war. That is very true. During the same time, I believe it was like a couple of months of bombings, and a couple of Chinese citizens at least, and workers of this embassy, and also, what's the correct term, news workers as well, were killed in the bombings. And the reasoning behind it was like almost non-existent. And the whole bombings, the reasoning behind it was that the Serbians were not accepting to sign the treaty of it was, I read the treaty, by the way. It's like it's pretty horrible. It's disrespectful almost. Yeah, accidentally. It's the NATO treaty that was proposed by NATO between Serbia and Kosovo. It's not a great treaty, but of course the Serbians didn't sign it, and what happened next is the bombings. And that apparently, as the NATO says, was the reason behind all this madness. So now barely any respect for the European Union. It in the minds of Serbians, it has been too supportive of the Albanians, which, by the way, the main force between in the fight of Yugoslavia and the Serbians and the Kosovo army, the Kosovo Liberation Army, which was which was made of Albanians. So it was found by the NATO, not the NATO. What's the correct term? Let me check. Right. It was found by the UN that this Kosovo Liberation Army is basically like a terrorist group, selling organs and stuff, and like killing people just and torturing people just for being Serbian and living in Kosovo. This army has been disbanded apparently, but afterwards, like a year or two later, there has been another army that had it's a different name, but it has exactly the same logo as the previous one. Let me show you. So this is the Kosovo Liberation Army. Let me show you in English. And then the next one, the Army of Albanian Army what was it? One moment please, I will find the exact information. Albanian National Liberation Army it was called, but it's exactly the same. Albanian National Liberation Army. Macedonia. It was founded in the Macedonia, but then it was like moving around the Kosovo and the Albanians and territory, and it's like you read all the stuff that they did, and it's just almost exactly the same. National Liberation Army. So that's the same one. The brand, the logo, what's it called? Like intense amounts of war crimes happening. Well, it's ridiculous. So now more to the future, right? There was like a North Kosovo crisis where the Albanians, the Kosovo police has just rolled in armed into the North Kosovo region, which is, let me show you, it's this area. You're seeing it, right? This area here. And all of these areas, most of them, as far as I know, have their own kind of government, and they have their own rules. And this area, since it's held by Serbians, has a separate government like branch, because most of this area is like 90+% of Albanians, and they are not very respectful of the local Serbians. And what happened was they tried, as far as I know, they have tried to uh, press with their forces to um, like retake the government by the Albanians, as far as I know. And this whole uh, when this whole talk began with the other nations and stuff, the Albanians said the Albanians said that Serbia is seeking to exploit the increasing tensions to pursue their long-term dream of partitioning the region. Almost an exact citation. Which is also quite interesting because this Albanian National Liberation Army, and it was saying and is saying, because I'm pretty sure it still exists, even though it said that it stopped operating in Kosovo in the latest, in 2012, if I'm correct. But their whole idea is, their manifesto is like reuniting, or rather the idea of the Great Albania. So they are hoping to unite the countries and the territories that have Albanians in them to spread their culture and make a great Albania. And in their workings, we can see that they have barely any respect for the people already living there, and they have no problem with pushing people away from these areas. Let me check the chat. How they should stop that regime with flowers? That is a good question. But this whole situation seems sketchy if we are talking about the whole NATO bombings. What do you mean about the regime? So yes, of course we have this NATO intervening, and the Yugoslavia and the Soviet Union that were friends almost like in the time, and not great in with their ways of working. But on the other hand, we have Albanians that were fed by nationalist rhetoric all this time, and they have been spreading it, and for most of this, at least 50 years to this point, they have been pushing away the local Serbians. So this whole war is very complicated if you take in all these nuances. Of course, I haven't checked most what the Yugoslavia has been up to. I have to be fair, but on this scope, you can see how this situation is evolving and going back and forth all the time. nope, I'm in the USA, but I have a big problem with NATO warmongering, just the same as when Russia does it, or China, or anyone. Yeah, that seems like warmongering to me, and it's hard. It's hard to look to dig out the facts of these intricate schemes that the governments were like webbing at the time. If we can just guess about what was going on, but at least the information was almost free, that what the people were doing back then. And I don't think that, like, I'm not 100% sure that this whole intervention was wholly and absolutely necessary at this point. UCK was never disbanded. They are always there. It's our Albanian heart. It's FSK. Okay. Regime which attacked for states neighbor for like 8 to 9 years. You know, before the war they could not talk and go to school to teach in Albanian. Do you mean in the territory of Kosovo? 95% of ethnic Albanians cannot put their children in their mother language. You mean ethnic cannot put their children? You mean they cannot grow their children and teach them Albanian language during the growth? Okay, this is quite interesting, as I can see that apparently you're Albanian, so I was very interested in talking to someone who is from over there to hear their side of the story. I have been reading this information in Wikipedia and in English, both in English and in Russian. And in some places the information doesn't it's not exactly the same. So yeah, that's why the war started. The war, you mean the war that between Yugoslavia and Kosovo back in 20 at the end of the 20th century, you mean? You're Albanian, but from Montenegro, if you hear about it. Yes, of course. Even before I traveled here, I heard about Montenegro, Chernogoria in Russian. It's quite a popular destination, and Serbia will start war on Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia, and Kosovo. I don't know about this whole war situation with other countries, but as far as information I'm getting right now is that the most intense stuff is happening in the Kosovo region right now, and apparently the Serbians are building barricades at the edge of Kosovo, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it might be just on the Serbian Kosovo border. Maybe it's in the North Kosovo. I haven't checked that yet. Too much information. Like, my head is almost exploding right now with all the stuff I've read. But about the other regions, it doesn't seem that aggravated, this whole situation. And as well, I was in Belgrade like 4 days ago. I was doing a visa run, and we came back to Belgrade. We took like a look around the old city, and there was like an act, what's it called, the where the people protest, like a protest, with the whole anthem and the music, and like 100 of people in the almost center of Belgrade on the street. I filmed a bit about it, like a couple of minutes. I'm not understanding. I'm understanding about 20 to 30% of Serbian language, so it's like very hard to try to understand. But of course, they were speaking mostly about the Kosovo and the Nazism that they perceive in what is happening currently. And as far as I can see, okay, thank you for visiting and talking. It was very interesting, and I hope to see you and talk again. Bye bye. Roshan Dota TV, fellow Dota player, apparently. Anyway, so there has been a lot of stuff happening with in the recent, as well as in the recent years, with the migrations of Albanians and Serbians back and forth. But it seems that since the Albanians came into the region, they are very determined in staying there, and the Albanians probably are hoping, like everything points to the fact that, to the idea that they will try to take Kosovo back, and they might want to integrate it into their territory, and they have been trying to do this for quite a long time. So even though with all this stuff happening and the proof of the Albanians doing this, illegal things, their army, I mean, not the Albanian army, the Kosovo Liberation Army and the Albanian National Liberation Army, like, it doesn't give them any good credit for what they are doing. If they would want to do something like this, it might be better to fight this war a bit simpler, because since they have most of the territory, why would they need to like sell organs and stuff? And apparently it has been proven and it doesn't look good, because it's raising too much questions in the Serbian and community, and of course they will fight that. like many people would fight this in any way possible. Like, could you imagine? Yeah, so back to Russia. Let me check one thing first. Yeah, so I've heard about this license plate story, and the story was that the Albanians in Kosovo were against seeing Serbians having I'm pretty sure that any kinds of Serbians having plates that were issued from Serbia, if I'm correct. So they were like very hostile towards this, and well, now it's resolved. Apparently they have been talking about it, and there's like as far as I can hear, there is no real fighting or attacks happening by Serbians, but the Albanians are doing them, and UN or NATO is not supporting the Serbians currently in enough in the minds of Serbians. As well, there has happened a situation like a couple of, let me show you. Here it is. In the US, the Albanians have protested in front of the building of the Serbian mission in New York, and they have been yelling like there were dozens of people carrying Albanian flags and American flags, and the flag of the Great Albania, which is in the nationalist propaganda of the Albanians, has been well, basically all this time. And I'm pretty sure that this is how the Nazis back then have if used is not the correct term, well, this is the way the Nazis used to appeal to Albanians back then. So yes, it's the army is called the KLA right now, and people have been yelling that lobby doesn't have enough NATO, and where's Bill when he is needed the most. And all this stuff. Well, that's just like a random fact. You make your own opinions about all this. Yeah, it has been resolved, and but in some degree, exactly to some degree, because what happened is well, everything is getting worse, and well, it's pretty stagnant right now, but it's Serbia, and the Serbian president is saying that Serbians will not make their first move, and they will hold their territory as hold their mental ground, not give, what's the correct term, give in to the to the aggression as much as they can. So that seems pretty fine to me, as well, as far as political moves go. So back to Russia. They're like, well, it's hard to tell you anything new. There has been like a lot of stuff happening, and well, nothing good. One of the recent things that is showing the level of the level of thinking and feelings of the Russians that still live in Russia. So in St. Petersburg there has been placed like a statue almost, if that is the correct term, like two hearts. One of them is Russia, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it was St. Petersburg and Mariupol. I will show you the picture. So this is the thing that was placed, and it was complete. These areas here were enclosed, but just like a couple of, it's the main square of St. Petersburg. It's in relation, everything in relation with the New Year Eve that's coming up is being placed, as you can see on the photos. The thing was placed, and almost immediately, like less than a week passed, it was almost every day was overwritten with marker graffiti. And the last time a thing happened that a Russian girl, apparently, which is quite young, she said she placed with the paint, not a paintbrush, you can the graffiti thing, bottle, sprayed can, right? The writings say, "Killers, you bombed civilians." And other bad words. And this thing was dismantled almost immediately after the last drawing. You could imagine, like, the St. Petersburg is the second largest city, and the protests that happened there were quite intense. And at first the protests weren't oppressed in many ways, like they didn't care. In Moscow there have been like thousands of people captured in a day. Yeah, that is a protest, not just like a simple graffiti. And also there have been writings with markers, like permanent markers, almost exactly the same stuff all over the thing, and many different people have written it. So it's not just vandalism, and this is very political. And it was dismantled, cleaned up, and now it's just this morning it has been completed once again. So we'll see how that plays out in the end. I hope that the girl who is like 16 years old, who's made this graffiti, will oh wait, yes, she gained an administrative fine, as far as I know, probably because she's 16 years old. The exact amount I cannot say, but it's probably higher than the the lowest allowed income in Russia, which is, if you want to know, because it has been in the newest taken territories of Russia, it is set to around 12,000 rubles. So 12,000 rubles, let me tell you how much, is about 200 euros per month. So if you're getting 201 euro per month, so you are above the lowest what's it called, the poverty line. That is the correct term. So with my buy me a coffee page, I'm still below the poverty line of Russia. But I'm very close to it, which is the funniest thing, right? That is crazy. And also what has been happening is just like companies have been closing down, people getting more and more people getting politically motivated fines and all the other stuff. So yeah, that is a very saddening situation. But if I will be if I take this conversation back to me and how I felt about all this story, and not this story but the Putin's regime story, it is well, from the outside it seems that not much has happened in Russia, but from the inside it has been feeling quite intense. Like many things have been changing. When it was like 2000s, like 2005 or something like this, the ruble was like a lot. Everything is at least 3 times as pricey as it was back then. at least up to 5 times as pricey. And I'm not talking just about the last 2 years, I'm talking about even 2015 and stuff like this. And things like most of my life, I remember Putin being the president. But I barely remember the time that he became president, like moments, brief moments where the Yeltsin was still in charge, the president of Russia. I remember hearing his voice and seeing him on TV4, I think, when it happened. Lost connection for a bit. It was a very interesting time back then, where there were like a lot of shops around everywhere. You could buy a lot with the money, like I would get 50 or 100 rubles from my mom to buy bread and stuff, for like basic stuff, everyday stuff for the family, and I still got like over half of the money to spend on the stuff that I wanted, like chewing gum, like all this kid stuff. How old am I? I am 27, if I'm correct. 27. I'm pretty sure. I'm now starting to lose count. Old enough to do that. So you can imagine that he's almost 21, I think, years at his presidency. Like, he is all this time the president, even though there was like Medvedev and like everyone knew everything about him and his relations. Anyway, so basically all my most of my life I have been seeing what's happening, and I didn't have any political position back when he became the president, so I have barely any respect or anything like this for previous one and maybe the ones that came before that. But it was apart from this whole terrorist attack situation that happened when around the time that he became president, which is quite interesting, the timing of it. Overall, everything at the time was feeling great. Like, people were happy that the Soviet Union has collapsed, that there is so much opportunity in business and all this stuff, and there have been like shops everywhere. You could buy anything almost anywhere, and there still have been a lot of working places for people all over the country, in any town or city or anything like it. So the urbanization was just slight, and so many, like a 10-year almost period passed since the Soviet Union collapsed. Still everything is all fine. Everyone is happy, but over the time I see that ruble is becoming less, and less businesses are existing, and that is already after the 90s. That was like the bandit decade, which is what's it called in Russia. The many businesses that and businessmen that are like huge right now, they were businessmen back then. And what was happening back then, that the Russian government had very low quality of laws to support all this, and not only support but block the businesses from rising and becoming and growing. And this is the reason why so many companies have been created and small ones were existing back then, and also the reason why so many bandits, like literal bandits, were like ransacking people, beating and killing people. So it was pretty tough back then. Like you could literally hear from time to time people shooting each other on the street, and it's not like unique, it was happening a lot, especially in Moscow. People have been taking the businesses of others, rewriting companies and apartments and all this jazz. And after this was like chill time, everything was getting better, and it was the time when Putin became the president, and at the same time the 90s have ended, like, and at the same time terrorist attacks happen. Like the timing is just perfect. So the moment he comes, it seems amazing, like he is speaking the truth, it seems, and he is very reasonable and has a very open mind and liberal position, which he was liberal when he came to be president. He was promoting it, and he also said stuff like too many presidents overseed their time, and I would never nobody should ever sit more than 2 presidencies in a row, and overall, like you get old and all this blah blah blah, and you can see how this all turned out to be. So if you are looking at the micro level, everything seems fine, so people are happy, business is rising. When you look at the macro picture, it's completely different, and especially if you know the under games of the people that were in the government and still are. But overall, over the decades, things are getting worse and worse. Like right now, there is like almost no small businesses in Russia. Like there is so little. There is like just a tiny amount of the small ones. Then there's like middle-sized businesses and so many, well, not so many, still not so many big businesses, but it's so disproportionate, the amount. It's almost like exactly the same amount of small businesses as there is like a giant businesses. It's very ridiculous. And over this time, this things with America are getting like pushed into the TV. Like there's so many, also the TVs and radio stations are so limited right now in what they can say. Back then, for example, in the 2003 or 5, something like this, there was a puppet show on TV. It was called Kukli in Russian, puppets, if you translate exactly. So what it did was they made actual hand puppets, Muppets, if that is the right term, and of course they would play them, but the idea is these Muppets are actual copies of presidents and political figures all over the world. And as well, they were presenting ones of Putin and Yeltsin and the other ones. And they were talking just satirical and fun stuff about politics. And I remember seeing this show, and I enjoyed it a bit, but not too much. It was like very political. It was mainly for grown-ups. So it was running for years. I'm not sure how much, but many years, and it was shut down in like year 2006 or something like this. And it was shut down because as was said by the owner of the show, or the TV station rather, that it was talking too much about Putin, and nobody can say anything bad about Putin, period. So it was quite a popular show. I don't know the exact numbers, but almost anywhere I went, I could see it. It's a very normal thing to watch it back then. And since then, it almost like became a norm. Like people working in the industry to hear that you can't say that, this is wrong apparently, and all this stuff. Let me check the chat. Angela, I interested in oh yeah, sorry, I missed your message. Does your family support your decision to leave Russia? It's a interesting question. No firm answer to that. Not really. Not really, no. So yeah, back to the story. And then afterwards, of course, it became like a norm to say the things that we are supposed to say on the TV shows and all this stuff. So at first everything was, the bad stuff was removed, and afterwards all the good stuff was added, and it still is exactly the way that things work. Thank you, Zoe. Thank you very much. You've been a great help. Yeah, Angela, yes, thank you. I'm also very happy that it is the case. It's been a great help in many ways. Thank you for the kind words. Yeah, so overall, Yes, my fiance has been working in this radio station, and it's not just like any radio stations. It's the only radio station that is has been working without a change of the owners for over 20 years, since before Putin's presidency. And I think it has changed. It was sold to the workers working there right now, like almost half a year ago. Yeah, that's very. And it was like one person was doing this thing all these years, and it was his magnus opus. And yes, in the last years he has been getting quite a bit of warnings from the Russian government, saying that he should be extremely careful about what he is saying, and that a close down of the radio station is very, very near. And after he had gotten this message, the radio station will almost close down for like a week or so, and then it continued its work. But so this was the last radio station that held its almost like a political stance. Of course, it continues the work, and the news spokesmen that were there, and all the other very literate people still work there. But in the lights of recent events and the increasing, what was the correct English term, but the one in Russia, the tightening of the bolts of the nuts, or something like this. Many of these workers are going to leave too. But the internal things are still continuing. The whole process is like developing, and quite a bit of people inside are just not leaving still, because they will not be removed from their from their country, and that's their stance, and they are not going to be overly politically active. But they might do things secretly, as was very popular during the Soviet times, where you get an exact order, but you do the job horribly wrong, and you do many things as well, other things that diminish the damage that your following of the order will do. Okay, I am going to end the stream very soon. It was quite interesting to see an Albanian person watch my stream and talk to him, so I hope to see more people and more talks like this, because it's not like black and white, but this story has quite a lot of colors in it. And I hope my explanation of the, at least like a run through of the history of macro history of Kosovo gives you just a bit of perspective on how things are. It sure did help me. I hope to just delve in a little bit and dive a bit deeper into the topic. It's better to understand, at least. Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Angela. Thank you, Zoe. Thank you to everyone else who was watching. Very, very nice to see all of you. By the way, I guess I see that most of the people here and watching my stream still, for some reason, haven't even tried, the ones who supported me, tried downloading the photos I've posted on Buy Me a Coffee page. I wonder if that's just the technical or issue or something else. Not trying like to push you or anything, just wondering if I could help, maybe if that problem exists. Anyway, if it does, you know where to find me, because I'm not even exactly sure it works right. So I have these members, and I'm not sure whether they make accounts and log into them every single time, and I'm not sure even if you can become a supporter without making an account. So I'm not also enough educated to understand all the story. Yes, Angela, yeah, I remember you writing. Yeah, yes, please, if you can do this while I'm still on the stream, there is like no problems. This will be perfect. Like 5 to 10 minutes is fine. I could wait. This whole talking about the past is racking some nerves, but other than that, it's fine completely. I'm feeling a bit tired from all this emotional and intellectual workings of my brain. But this is like, I'm here for you. So you should be able to get on the page and download the, if you're the supporter, a member rather, you can get the picture and it will be emailed. You will have to place your email there and it will be sent. I'm just looking like shocked, almost shell shocked. So what I'm talking about, if to the ones that don't know exactly what I'm talking about, let me show you. So that's my page, and over here you have like members, supports, posts, and the last tab is extras. So this is like wallpapers, but possibly posters if you print them, because this is 4K quality pictures, very huge. And this is like a nice mountain building in Kamchatka, a very remote location from the nearest city. It is very interesting to see something like this. Also I'm not sure which mountain, that's like a volcano, and you will get this picture in the yellow, not this round part. It's just for beauty, made with the picture. It's like a zoom, not like just for beauty. It's the zoom of this picture right here, for example. Oh, okay, good, because yes, okay, if it's working, fine, that's perfect. Just wanted to give back a little. I think most people put the buy me a link in the description, and we have to go to your page to find the link. By the way, I'm sorry, let me post the link right now to the chat, because for some reason I forgot to place it in the I don't know if we can change the amount each month. I will try. So yeah, let me try to show. Here's the buy me a link, buy me a coffee page, exact almost link. Let me make it like an exact one. Yeah, it's the same thing, just reloading, because I'm streaming. It's like taking too much time. This is the page, and memberships and support over here. So memberships have a couple of levels. They will improve over time. So currently, even for these photos, even a helping hand level, which is $5 a month, will give you access to these photos for free. I'm developing as the amount of stuff you get as I go. Currently it could be better, of course, but I just started, so a lot more to come. The amount is, as you can see over here, so just press the right amount for you, and if there's like no exact right amount, you can subscribe and maybe press support over here, which will say by Alexander Azam Epai, and you can type exact amount, and each one is $5. I hope this helps. And next time I hope to fix this confusing tunnel that is appearing every time I switch. So I will press a button, and it just will be beautiful for you and easy, because it might be dizzying to see this tunnel appear. Anyway, thank you. Pozdrav. I'm a bit late for the stream. Zdravo. It's a bit late. I hope you will see the replay. I was talking about my research quick research about Kosovo and this whole situation, and I hope it was helpful and very respectful to the history of both of the sides, at least for Kosovo and Serbia. Anyway, thank you everybody once again. I will be ending the stream here. Happy to hear every single one of you and see, and thank you for the support. Bye bye.